Yo, what is up, everybody? My name is Beau Tyler. I make music. This is my studio, and today I've been asked to create an entire song using output plugins. Well, almost an entire song. I am going to use Butch Vig Drums for the drums because I've been super re-addicted to them lately. I can't quit them. But yeah, Native Instruments and Output are doing some crazy deals over on Native's site. Check it out. The individual output plugins I'm covering today are half off. The entire bundle is $2.99, which you're going to see why that's crazy. But we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. Let me show you a preview of what we're going to make today.
That I could never solve this. I guess impossible to preamble for problems. And when I look into your eyes, I know it's lies, and it's no surprise I called it.
Since the goal is to use all of the output plugins, I'm just gonna go through them all until I think I've created a really good set of textures, something that can really be manipulated into forming the foundations of a vibe for a song, if you will. All right, so first up is Analog Brass and Winds. It's distorted orchestral sound. It's got like over 500 presets. It is a modern hybrid of orchestral and synthesized sounds. Whenever I want brass and I want it to sound more interesting than just brass, this is the first plugin I think of and always the first one I reach for. Alright, so this is Analog Brass, and I'm really not going to have to go through too much on each of these plugins because one of the most beautiful things about all of these different contact instruments that Output makes is that they're incredibly easy to use. And if you have a Komplete Kontrol keyboard like I do, then you can actually open these programs up directly inside of Komplete Kontrol rather than having to open them up in Kontakt. It has really great live applications, and it just makes it easy to browse right on your keyboard. It's just fully mapped. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite things about my workflow. But just to give you a rundown, you got a main page. All of these are different sliders. Most of the newer output plugins have 4 main parameters that change from preset to preset. Main page, your edit page with your envelopes and all your filters, your effects for all of your macros on each of the sound because it's layering 2 different sounds. You've got a rhythm page and an arpeggiator. So I have actually already found a sound that I like. I've actually used this preset quite a bit in the past in a number of songs. It just kind of always finds its way to me. We just can't quit each other. Alright, so this is Signal, and this is a much more common look for an output instrument. It's got these 4 sliders. I'm going to go ahead and just hold this chord down and show you what the sliders do, just kind of give you an idea. Alright, and let's just grab that MIDI from the previous bass track and drag it down to this Signal track. Yeah, so I didn't go super deep in depth on Signal because, one, I have a feeling I'm going to be using it again whenever I start to come up with pads for this song. And 2, it's a really simple plugin and the description of it is completely accurate. Substance, I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper look at than Signal because this is without a doubt my favorite Kontakt plugin. Yep, not just that Output makes. This is my favorite Kontakt plugin. So if we look up here, we've got the main page. On here are the 4 controls that I talked about. It's got some other small controls here in the middle. You can change different things depending on the setting. If you change the preset, you'll see that those settings change, as well as the 4 macros that are on the outside of the plugin. Let's go back to Battlefield though, just because that's absolutely the sound I want. This is another preset I use quite a bit, and then I just dial it in. You've got the edit page where you can take the 3 sounds and fully shape them. And this does blend sounds just like other output plugins. Very common among Kontakt plugins to just blend different sounds to create something new. You've got an EQ page here, your filters, your effects, and your rhythms. I'm going to keep this pretty straightforward. And just like we did earlier with Signal, let's grab the MIDI from our Analog Brass and drag it down here to Substance. Now, since we were creating an entire stack for the bass, here's what they sound like all together. Yeah, so now that we have bass, let's go ahead and just get a drum beat in there. That bass line gives me a good idea of what I'm gonna play. So I'm just gonna play it. Alright, before we move on to the upper melodics and some of the other output plugins that we're featuring today, I'm going to go back to Signal real quick because it's always one of my go-to for pad noises and mid-range instruments. You can use it all over the place, but those are my favorite sounds in Signal. And I think I already have an idea of what I would like to use. Check this out. Alright, so this is Analog Strings. This plugin is all about timbre. It's got traditional strings and vintage synths and then mixes them together. You've got the same macro sliders as all of the other plugins, and I'm just gonna be honest. While you can dive deep into these plugins and do some serious sound design, mostly, you're just gonna use these 4 macro sliders. It's a good thing. It makes it easy, quick, to the point, get to creating. Alright, so just like I did with the bass, I'm probably gonna ride with this chord progression all the way through on all of these different instruments. So I'm just gonna drag and drop this over and we'll put this right onto Analog Strings. Alright, awesome, that sounds perfect, but let's add one more instance of Analog Strings to it. This is the Anticipation preset, and I think this will actually help serve that sound quite well. So let's drag that MIDI down and we're good to go. Check it out. Alright, now let's add some extra texture to all of these chords. To do that, I'm going to go straight to analog brass. I think I'm going to use these swells that I just found. Now, one thing you're hearing is that these chords are playing throughout. I'm probably going to sidechain a gate to all of these pads and plucks and higher end melodics, and for the source of that gate, it's probably going to be the bass so that it's super tight and we've got a lot of hits like boom, boom, silence. When I add vocals and guitar, that'll give a lot of breathing room. Anyway, so here's the preset I found for analog brass and winds. It's called Airwaves. Check it out. Alright, so next up we have Exhale. I'm feeling good about where the chords are at, so we're going to start introducing some vocal elements, and there's really nothing better for vocal inspiration than Exhale. I mean, other than your own voice, but sometimes, you know, it's just not there that day. This always gets the ball rolling for me. Exhale's a modern vocal engine. It says so right there on the interface. This is probably the simplest of all these plugins. You've got your main page, your engine, you choose the key, and you can select your macros. That's it. It's that simple. 4 sliders just like all the others, but where this one is different is there's 3 ways to use this instrument. You've got your notes page, loops, and slices. Notes just takes a bunch of human voices and it's basically turning them into synths so that you can play them on your keyboard. Loops and slices are a little bit interchangeable. I use them a lot in the same way, but these are just pre-recorded samples, and then these are chopped slices, just like when you're using a machine or an MPC or whatever groove box of your choice. These are a little bit interchangeable, but today we're using loops. I have a setting called Banger. Let me show you what it does. Now this right here is Rev. Very simple. You've got your main page, dual sounds where you can control everything, your macros at the bottom, all of the parameters you need for layer 1, layer 2. You can change the actual engine right there. I'm gonna leave it on dry, or at least I think it was on dry, and then come back here to the main page. I'm using a preset called A Tad Gritty. Sounds like this. Now you can actually change the duration of the swells. You've got a whole note, half note, quarter note. Alright, so just like before, I'm gonna pull down the MIDI from those other keyboard tracks into this one, but I'm not gonna gate this one with a side chain to the bass like I did before. The space that those other pads will leave whenever they're cut off by the gate, this one is gonna play through, and it will give us a good juxtaposition between the 2 parts. Okay, dope. We've got one more instance of Rev though. I found a really cool preset I've never used before. It's called 20 Cello Pulse 4. Sounds like this. Yeah, I don't know if I'll end up using that one. I just wanted to keep it just in case. Whenever I'm using this sort of workflow where I've decided which instruments I'm going to use before I start, which is something very common for me. It's not just something I do when output comes a-calling. I find that the best approach is to almost think of the session as though I'm creating a sample pack and then I'll create the song from it. Like for instance, because I've been sitting with this progression for so long, I know what I'm going to sing now, and I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to play on guitars. So this is Rev X-Loops. I'm not going to do a super deep dive with this one because you can tell that it is the predecessor to Rev. They look so similar. There are a few differences though. On Rev, you had whole note, half note, and quarter note, but right here you have half speed, normal, double speed, and you'll find that it's actually just a sample library of a few different instruments. You've got mandolin, guitar, swells, drum sets, aggressive. And while that might not seem like a lot, what you can do with that is kind of crazy. You've got lots of factory presets up here, and then you can also save user presets. I haven't done that. I usually just go preset hunting through it and tweak from there. Now there are lots of great instruments. I'll show you. You can do things like dirty atmospheric. Now, similar to Exhale or some of those other instruments, you're not really playing notes down here. What you have are a series of recorded loops that spans the range of about 2 octaves. Now, in case you think that's limiting, you can repitch any of these. Basically, what they've given you is a sample library that you can play. What I had selected was stomps and claps. Now, the reason I chose stomps and claps was I was feeling like the drum beat was just a little bit bare. I wanted some sort of percussive elements, and I figured if I took these sounds and chained them to the drum so that it would come in and cut out and come in and cut out, it would create something really cool. So let me show you what we got. I'll show you once by itself and then once chained to the drums. Yeah, so that's it. I'm about to do a little bit of off-camera mixing, record in some vocals and guitars that I've been writing in my head throughout this session. Before we do get out of here, I do want to remind you all that if you go to Native's website, if you search output or check the links in the description below, all of the output plugins I used in this video are 50% off, and to get a bundle with all of them is only $2.99. I told you it was crazy. I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you learned at least something, and if nothing else, I hope you found it entertaining. Before I do this final performance, for lack of a better word, I want to say thank you so much to my friends at Native Instruments for reaching out to me about this. Thank you so much to my new friends at Output. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do like this content, be sure to like, subscribe, notification bells, all that stuff for Native Instruments. They have so many cool people that come on here and make videos, so it means a lot to me to be one of the natives, one of the outputters. But if you do like this content and this is just not enough and you want to follow me, here's my name. Beau Tyler Makes Music. Type it into the YouTube search bar and you'll find me. So without further ado, here's the final result with the guitar and vocals that I've been writing in my head, and I already know what it's called. It's called I Called It. No, you're not confused. It's called I Called It. You'll get it in a second. Check it out.
Every time you say it, I don't even know if I believe it. Every time you speak, I know it's false. When I look into your eyes, I know it's lies and it's no surprise. God knows I try, but your mouth demise, I called it. I knew that I could never solve this. I guess impossible to preamble for